Hey y'all, everybody is making courageous moves on this episode of Wow Superheroes. We finally have our Wow World Championship match between the Beast and Abilene Maverick, and we definitely have some important words from Sophia Lopez, the world's greatest attorney. This is Steph and Kat Talk Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs and the Ruben Studders. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. All of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. All of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape. Every one of us, I was kinda late, so I just made it up the struggle bus. Walking by the faith, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't
Hey y'all, and welcome on this Wow Wednesday to a new episode of Steph and Cat Talk Wow, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. I am, of course, your girl Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of this fabulous platform, as well as contributing writer for Daily DDT and color commentator featured on the Belladonna Division, Battle Club Pro, Black Girl Magic 2022, and Spartan Wrestling. But of course, I'm not alone. I am with my amazing co host. She is the creator of In Cat We Trust. She is also a writer herself, an author herself, and she's the creator of the Women of Color in Wrestling panel, as well as a backstage correspondent, interviewer, commentator, all the things for any wrestling promotion ever. And she's a super mom. She is Katrina Blake. How are you, Kat?
I'm tired. It's a busy mom week for me. So preparing for when kids stuff. I feel like I've been running all over the place, but I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Of course, you've been getting your mom on because of everything that's happening with your kids in terms of graduation season and prom season, of course. So we send all sorts of congratulations to everyone who's watching that might have a child going through the exact same thing or children going through the exact same thing. I know what it's like. I've been through it myself. Of course, I'm not a mom. I've been the person graduating from things, and it is a lot. But at the same time, it's a season of celebration, and speaking of seasons of celebration, this is the first episode that we're doing during Pride Month. So, of course, I just want to send love, peace, and positive vibes to everyone of the LGBTQIA plus community, because we love you and we fight for all forms of equality all the time. And this is a safe space for you. So I just wanted to say happy Pride Month, and also happy Caribbean American Heritage Month. I did see that that was a month. So yeah, I thought that was really cool to learn. So happy Caribbean American Heritage Month. We'll get more into that a little bit later. And it is Black Music Month too, as well as Father's Day coming up, as well as Juneteenth. So there's a lot of celebration going on this month as a whole. But of course, thank all of you guys for watching with us and supporting us in our wrestling careers. And thank you for, watching on every platform we have, of course, on Facebook, on X/Twitter, on YouTube, and all the things. Thank you guys so much. As we continue to grow and talk about this show and show love to women's wrestling. And of course, during this episode, if you watched this past weekend's episode, please chime in the comments and let us know what parts resonated with you, who your favorite WoW superhero is at this point, and of course, anything that you felt like that you really loved from this episode. Eric Isaac is in the chat, forever pulled up before we even go live. We thank you so much, saying congrats to the Beast for finally finishing her story, which is an amazing um joke to make. But of course, we'll get to that later. And then he also says his birthday is on the 28th of this month. So happy pre-birthday to you, Eric. That is so amazing. Happy pre-birthday to you, and for all the June birthdays too. Like, that's so great. So yeah. This episode title was called True Courage, and it was just probably one of the deepest and probably one of the most satisfying episodes of WoW we have seen in this entire season. It's just, really satisfying. But before we get to the super, super satisfying part, the episode started with a recap of the Beast and Abilene Maverick and their journey with each other ever since they had their first match against each other, and Abilene used those shenanigans with the brass knuckles to keep her title in the opportunistic way that we know her for now, and just all the excuses that she gave so she wouldn't have to face the Beast or anyone else until she said so, right? So we saw all of that, and then they finally announced that this match was going to be the main event of this episode. So this led us into match number one, which was, of course, Penelope Pink versus Sierra Breeze, who was making her WoW debut. And Penelope Pink was accompanied by Lana Star and Vicky Lynn McCoy. And let me just say, I talked about this on the Hardy Wrestling podcast. Sierra Breeze is someone who I have had my eye on for a little bit due to the fact that she was a part of the 2023 class of the WWE Performance Center. But before she was ever set to make her in ring debut, she was released during a round of releases, unfortunately. So we really didn't get to see all of what she had to offer. But she was an amazing athlete. She came with a lot of athletic prowess. I actually did more research on her to just sort of figure out more of who she is. So, of course, she is from the Bahamas. If you notice that in this episode, she popped up with all of her beautiful colors. And speaking of Caribbean American Heritage Month, she is of the Caribbean heritage, so that was cool. And she was a former sprinter who represented the Bahamas in a national team, and she found wrestling as a new passion for her simply because she had never really wrestled before, but once she started training, she took like a duck to water and just loved it and wanted to continue her wrestling career. So, in the midst of all of this, she's been wrestling in the independents, doing her thing all over as Kalia Capri, and she made her WoW debut here. So, I'm just so excited that this is what we're going to get into right now when it comes to her. And this match was very satisfying. But before we get into the action, of course, Lana Star had a lot of stuff to say when it came to um all of the stuff going on with where they are. And Lana Star basically said, so night after night, I come out here and I talk about the greatness that is me, Penelope Pink, Vicky Lynn, and the Fab Four. And why do I do that? Because it's true. And Penelope Pink is the WoW World Champion that we all deserve. Clearly, right, Penelope? And of course, Penelope grabbed the microphone and said, that's right, Lana. You see, it doesn't matter who is or doesn't become the WoW World Champion because at the end of the day, they're walking around with my title around their waist. And they know deep down in their soul that they could never be me. So take a look at what a champion looks like because I'm Penelope Pink and I'm the real WoW Factor. So this match gets started, and we see the entrance of Sierra Breeze, and she pops up with all these beautiful colors. And when I saw her, it just kind of felt like a breath of fresh air. I was just like, wow, look at her. This is amazing. These are just the things that we just love to see when it comes to Black women in wrestling. And she had a lot of confidence. She was dancing a lot. She was winding her hips and everything. And I was like, yes, girl, I liked it. And she showed great strength throughout the match. And she has great agility and confidence. And she was using kicks, and she had a step up insecurity and an impressive crossbody splash to Penelope Pink at one point. And of course, Penelope was kind of taking her lightly, which isn't wise to do. But Penelope just thinks she could just run through everybody and just be okay with that because she thinks she's everything, the real wow factor, right? But Penelope Pink, using her tough technical prowess and her shenanigans, because of course Lana and Vicky Lynn were out there, she was beating down on Sierra, and it was just too much for her at one point, to the point to where she actually hit her bend and snap DDT for the win. So Penelope Pink won the match, but this was an impressive opening debut for Sierra Breeze. So I was really excited to see her perform against someone like Penelope Pink, who is, one of the best girls athletically in all of WoW. But, she got the best of her. So Katrina, how did you feel about Sierra Breeze's debut?
I thought she had a really good debut. Honestly, she got to go against. I know you have beef with Penelope, but she got to go against somebody who's I think one of the top ones. And while shenanigans aside, she's one of the top ones in WoW. And so to have your debut be against that and a former champion, I think it's pretty cool. But I do think she did well. Considering I do think Penelope did go in kind of be thinking it would be super super easy to win this, and while she did win, it wasn't as like easy as I guess she thought it was going to be. She definitely had to do some more work to kind of put the match away, but I thought it was a really really good debut. But also just even with the shenanigans, it feels like you do certain things and you can kind of see like, okay, this is why Penelope was champion when she did win it. When she won it in the end of 2020. Well, when we saw it, it was the end of 2022. But when she got it, you know, you can see why she became champion. I think that speaks to her as a competitor, as a wrestler. But I thought this was a really good debut. I'm looking forward to see what else we're gonna get from her. And I love the hair. I think like it gives me mermaid vibes. Like I like the like the color blue that she uses. And so I'm looking forward to see what happens next with her.
Yeah, me too. Like everything about her did look very tropical and mermaidish. I definitely got that vibe from her as well. But it's just everything about her is just so very vibrant, and just watching her and seeing, how she's been able to grow over, the past year has been amazing. And just seeing her have this chance to wrestle on TV that she almost would have had, other stuff hadn't gotten away. It was just really great to see that, and going up against, my worst enemy. Aside from that, it was a pretty, good opening match. But the thing that I found even more interesting about that is just that Penelope Pink still thinks that she is supposed to be, the wow everything and all of the above. And it's just like, ma'am, like you haven't really been in the title picture for a minute, but yet and still you think you can just, say all of these weird things about you, being on top and how you're the real wow factor and all of the above. So I'm just like, okay, girl, we'll see how this goes. But yeah, like this match was really good, and I just want to see more of what Sierra has to offer. So definitely a big congratulations to her, and for her having that moment for herself. And as far as I know, in my research, I don't recall seeing any other Bahamian women in professional wrestling. So she might be the first. So congrats to her in that aspect as well. There is a smaller subsection of Bahamian wrestling history that I did look up, and I did not see a whole lot about its other women. So if she's the first one, then that's really amazing for them in terms of that level of representation. So I'm just really excited to see what the future holds for her. So moving forward, we did get a recap of Princess Aussie and Tormenta defeating Las Banditas for the honor of Sophia Lopez, the world's greatest attorney. And they showed what happened after that match because, of course, that tag team match ended the very last episode that we saw of WoW, but we didn't see what happened afterward. So this is where the episode took a very heartfelt turn where Tormenta started speaking to Sophia in Spanish and started telling her all the reasons why, she's been able to go for all of these championship matches and all of this success, and how she just gave Sophia Lopez her flowers for, being by her side in all of it, like since we've seen them on this new iteration of WoW and everything. And how a lot of people just don't know that Sophia really is, the strongest warrior among everyone, even though they are, the wrestlers. And Sophia was very grateful for that. But she said to everyone that I am more than the world's greatest attorney. I am a human being. And last year, I got shocking news when I found out that I had breast cancer. All of you have been my family. WoW has been my family for over 12 years. And I kept this as a secret and didn't want to reveal it until now in front of my family. And she proceeded to talk about how when she was struggling over the last year, she went through surgery and chemotherapy, and the fans, of course, gave her life. And every time they were yelling at her and booing her, it just gave her more of a reason to fight and more of a reason to live. And she also stated that she did not need to hide behind a wig anymore. And she took said wig off, and we saw her natural beauty, without all of the long hair that we know her for having. And it was just a really heartfelt and beautiful moment in that regard. And then after that, she introduced Jungle Girl, who is, of course, a former Wild World champion as well as a breast cancer survivor herself. And they talked more about her Endorphasm Foundation, which gives people the courage to move through their breast cancer or any other form of cancer diagnoses. And they've mentioned that on the show before, but they definitely mentioned it here. And they showed encouragement and love towards Sophia Lopez. And of course, they all had a group hug afterward. And it was just a very beautiful, heartfelt moment. And I'm not going to hold y'all. When I first saw this, I was crying, lots of tears. I couldn't believe what she had said um, about what she had been going through, but I'm going to let Katrina talk about it a little bit more before I weigh in. So, Kat, how did you feel when she shared this piece of news?
As somebody who's uh had to, deal with somebody of close to them dealing with cancer, I definitely I was like, oh man, I feel like I always, anytime I've ever hear anybody says that, I always feel like I react a little bit differently than most people because of like, I feel like it's a personal thing for me, just knowing, watching somebody struggle with that. I'm glad that she has gotten better. I'm glad it's, still here. I'm glad that she even chose to share that. I don't even know. I think of like when Roman mentioned his leukemia and people were nice and then they was assuming he was lying and I'm like, why would anybody lie about that? Why would anybody, that's something like that personal, why would work would that be? And so, I'm always now, if you can, restless sure that type of information is just like, fans are not always the nicest, unfortunately. And so, I'm glad she shared it in the way that like is some insight into what was been going on with her. Um, and that she was still trying to be, present while dealing with that, which also speaks to anybody who can still chemo again from just watching it happen to somebody very very close. You're tired. Everything is just and yucky, and she still was coming to work and still trying to be around people not as often, but she was there, and so I think it's a testament to I guess how she feels about how she feels about the women in the locker room, but also I think it's very courageous of her to even share the story or even want to still try to work through that. So I'm glad she's better. I hope it stays that way, where it stays in remission. Where she don't have to worry about dealing with that again. But it definitely was, one of those kind of emotional type moments, where it's like, oh man, hi, uh, you know, geez, you don't want that. You don't wish that on anybody. You don't wish that on anybody in any capacity, to have for any of that kind of thing to happen. And so I'm glad she shared it. I'm glad she's doing better. And with hopes that she stays in remission and she just keeps getting well and keep being there as the greatest attorney in the wild locker room.
Yeah. I think it's poignant, that you mentioned when Roman had it. I almost forgot for a second that there were people who said that that was work, and I'm sitting here like, what is wrong with you? But I just remember feeling like the bottom had fell out because because that day was already challenging in different ways for me. But to get home and watch Raw and then him admitting that was just one of the most heartbreaking things on the planet. Because of course these people are in front of you doing superhuman things all the time, but I really feel like us as fans, we feel a sense of, not all of us, but some of us feel a sense of entitlement and a sense of being spoiled a little bit when we see these people on television and just think we can just do whatever and say whatever and forget that these are human beings behind it. These are human beings going through very human experiences just like we do every single day. They're just on a public platform and seen by millions of people or thousands of people at a time. And it's just in thinking about Sophia making that announcement, she didn't have to share that with us. And it is really none of our business, but she chose to say that because of how much she values, the family that she's created in, wow, over 12 years. Like that's a little bit, like that's over a decade at this point. And the fact that she valued the fans and valued, everybody on staff at wow enough to say, I've been going through this, but I'm fighting through, was a very courageous act. And the idea that she's fighting and still working in the midst of it is a very beautiful thing too, because some people go through stuff like that and just give slap up and just don't do nothing. And the idea that she's not letting it get her down, she's still working, it's just a beautiful thing. um I know there have been two people in my life who I have loved who have had cancer, and they fought until the very end. And that was my high school choir teacher. Her name was Miss Howes. And she was probably one of the toughest music teachers I ever had. But she was a beautiful soul and she was incredible. And there were times where she would be off from work because she would have to go through chemotherapy. But, and when she would come back, like her spirit was still there and she still loved music and all of the things that she was passionate about, like her family and all of the above. And she passed in 2014, but I just loved her example in my life. And then the other person was someone who I went to church with, and her name was Miss Evira Stevenson, and she was a friend of my family even before I was born. And she was just the sweetest person, and she was fabulous, and she lived across the street from the church, and she could sing like nobody's business, and she was just always sweet to me. So I always felt like the idea of cancer as a disease was just unfair because it robs people. It robs people of so much more that you might want them to have. Like it's like you love them so much and you want them to be with you forever, but cancer sort of has a tendency to rob you of that. But I just believe that when it comes to stuff like that, like love keeps you connected and it keeps you going more than anything else. And as long as you have the courage to live and fight, then that's all that matters. And and it's just, I'm just so grateful that even you and I had the chance to even speak with her on a different platform before, and hear all the things that she's passionate about in wrestling, like having no clue of the things that she was fighting or could have been fighting at that point, but still, like, just us even being blessed enough to even speak with her and hear, all the things that she loves and wants to accomplish in wrestling even now. It's a blessing. So, Sophia Lopez, you have our love and you have our strength and our light that we can send to you always. That we've always loved you since we've been watching the show. And you definitely have our respect, more so now than ever, because my God, I can't. Um, and I just hope that she just kicks cancer's ass forever. Um, and just continues to live a long and prosperous, beautiful life. And yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about it. Like, it was just really heartfelt. And even just watching it back again, it was very meaningful. And I appreciate everything that Sophia has given to us as viewers and fans and to wrestling as a whole. And I hope that she can continue to do that. And I'm glad that she has people, fighting for her in the form of her friends and her family and even the Endorphasm Foundation there. So, yeah, it was a lot, but as long as you fight, then that's all that matters. And I believe that's where the true courage episode title comes in. It comes in from her. So we love you, Sophia Lopez. You're the world's greatest attorney and you're number one in our hearts. So that was very beautiful. Um, so yeah. Now, as we move forward with the rest of the show, the second match was a six-woman tag between the Brat Pack and Keta Rush and the Mighty Mites. And and let me just say in the comments, there are people showing love to her. Cliff, thank you for watching, saying blessings to her. And also just chiming in and saying, hey, and Kelvin on Facebook saying hi. Hi to you as well. So yeah, I just wanted to chime in and do that. But this was the next match that we had going on. Um, and it was really good to see Keita Rush and the Mighty Might sort of get back together because they kind of had that cool vibe going on when the trios tournament was going on. And of course, the Brat Pack seemed like a very indestructible force of a team at first, but yeah, we're going to get into that a little bit later. In the comments, we have Kelvin saying that he lost his sister to leukemia last year. I'm so sorry, Kelvin. I'm coming to understand her decision to not get chemo. Extremely brave. My heart goes out to Sophia. And Cliff with a heart emoji. Well, yeah, I know I can only imagine it has to be really tough, but I'm sending love and prayers to you. Um, with that. But with the Brat Pack versus Keita Rush and the Mighty Mites, this was a pretty okay match. But before we go to the match, we do have to go to Katrina's least favorite part of the show, which is BK. Yep, she's giving us new flavor in our ears. Shout out to Craig Mack, rest in peace to him. So BK's bars this week were pretty, not exactly the greatest. She's had better bars, I will say, but I'm just go ahead and read them anyway. She said, "Our rhythm is too sick. We're icons in entertainment. I mean, we basically wrote the rubric. Brat Pack is the click. We're must see TV because everybody knows that we're better than you three." So that's the flavor in our ear this week with BK's bars. Now, there were people in the crowd who shared the sentiment of Katrina where they were chanting, "You can't rap, you can't rap." And I was like, dang, this is getting rough. But, Kita actually started off the match against BK Rhythm, and she was going hard on her. Like she actually started in on some grappling and some drop kicks to BK, and there were lots of quick and hot tags between Kita and Sugar and Spice as they were tagging each other in and out with multiple drop kicks. And of course, I believe Sugar hit a handstand splash to BK, and there was a lot of offense from all of them as they kept tagging each other in, and they kept isolating BK, which was really smart because usually when the Brat Pack gets to going in their matches, once they still have each other to tag in, it's like they can utilize all their strengths all at once. But Kita and the Mighty Mites definitely, peeped that, clocked that, and said, "Nah, not today. We're gonna beat up on BK and keep her as desperate as possible so we can weaken the team." And they definitely did that. BK even tried to go in for a submission, but of course, the Mighty Mites weren't having it. Then finally, Gigi was finally able to get a tag, and then she hit a snapmare and a knee to the back of Spice. And she was even disrespectful enough to slap her at one point. I was like, dang, Gigi, you ain't got to be that rough, but whatever. Then BK and Jay Boogie were able to lock in a double submission while Gigi was distracting the referee and antagonizing Kita Rush and Sugar. But once Jay Boogie was in the match on her own a little bit, Kita sort of rushed in somehow and kicked both BK and Gigi off of the apron of their corner, and they snuck up on Sugar and Spice while they were on their apron and started beating up on them outside the ring. And then little Jay Boogie wound up hitting her head on the top turnbuckle, and Keita Rush hit a springboard crossbody in order to win the match. So Keita and the Mighty Mites wound up winning here. And What was so weird about this was as BK and Gigi were outside brawling with the Mighty Mites, it was almost as if something shifted within them and they started honing in on Lil J Boogie and they grabbed her bump box and slammed her in the head with it, and they started jumping her and berating her for being the weakest link of the team, yelling at her because she couldn't get the job done and all of the above. So, in the midst of all of this craziness going on, and in the midst of Gigi and BK turning their backs on Lil J Boogie, Steffi Slays comes out and defends her honor. And once the EMTs came in to check on Lil J Boogie, and so did David McClain, Steffi grabbed the microphone and spoke on behalf of her and said, "She is not okay, and I'm not okay with this. I'm so sick of people in the locker room being bullies and turning on your own teammate. This is not what WoW is about, David. Jay Boogie deserves more. She is a talented wrestler, and I know this because I've been in the ring against her. She deserves someone who's going to be a true tag team partner, and she deserves a great friend. And I am here to stand by her, to stand by her side as a true friend." And she just kept holding Lil J Boogie close to her and everything. And in the moment, I was just like, man, it must feel nice to have a hug from Steffi Slays, because she just seems like the sweetest person ever. So if I could just be hugged by her, that would be really nice. But then as Steffi Slays kept saying that, she wanted to be a true friend to her, this is what popped into my mind.
You're a true friend.
I'm sorry. I just sometimes songs just pop into my head while people are talking, and then I have to keep it to myself. But in this area of wrestling, this is where I don't keep it to myself. But that's literally what it reminded me of. Shout out to Miley Cyrus and Hannah Montana. Cliff in the comments laughing. But yeah, like Steffi Slays wants to be a true tag team partner and friend to Lil J Boogie. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match, and what Gigi and BK did to Lil J Boogie and what Steffi had to say about it?
I, I thought it was a good match. I did not like those bars. I never liked the bars, but I didn't like them this past weekend even more. Like even less of liking. It was even less this time. But I did think it was a good match, and I do think like Kita and the Mighty Mites, I think that they worked really, really well together. I think Kita to an extent have some similarities in how she wrestles with them, and I think that helped them out. I, however, was not surprised about them turning on Little J Boogie. I thought she should have been with them in the first place. And while she integrated herself, thinking that you got a girl who raps, and because you dance, that means okay, we're gonna be like the homies. Is like, well, what have we learned? What have we learned from this? That you probably shouldn't have joined forces with them in the first place. So you did all of that, helped them win some matches or whatever, and now they turned on you because they lost the match. And I feel like I'm just not surprised. BK Rhythm was always about self from the very beginning, and we already know how GG. We just, I'm not surprised. I mean, did I feel bad? Yeah, but I was like, after that first time you teamed up with them, you should have been a little bit more inclined to think that I don't know. We don't have the same vibes. We're not on the same wavelength. It just, I don't know why it has to take people to get beat up sometimes to see. I don't know. I don't think we're on the same. We're not on the same level right now in regards to how we see things. It was always obvious to me that they used her for as good as they could use her for. I don't know how she didn't see that. And so it's unfortunate that they turned on her and that she got beat up, but at least she had somebody to kind of stand up for her in a sense. And while I do like that Steffi did that, it's also like, well, when you have, it's like knowing BK and I could just be me, like you had the one person who like lost almost every match except like one in like recent months. So it's like they're probably gonna be like, okay, you came for her and what? Like love us for regards to how they think, especially BK Rhythm in particular, who always have to make the little weird comments about certain things. I don't know if this is gonna help or hinder little J Boogie in regard of came to her aid, but I am glad that somebody did, but also like I'm gonna need her to just use a little bit more some common sense because I never thought they should have been. I never understood why she was teaming with them. She seemed too nice to be with them, and you being able to be physically active in a way that is pleasing to the eyes does not mean that you need to be the person who happens to do rapping or whatever. Um, but it was a good match. I'm not surprised. I honestly was just like, I knew it would happen sooner or later. Not that you wanted to happen, but I knew it would. It's just like you just kind of knew what to expect from certain people, and just the vibes from the two of them was not going to be. They were going to be kumbaya. We're going to be best friends. That's not. They used her till they felt like she was of no use anymore. And unfortunately, she had to learn the hard way. But hopefully, this means maybe she'll get some insight from an OG, like Steffi, or kind of spread her wings in a better place that's not full of what BK and UG's been doing the last few weeks.
Yeah, I believe we both shared the same sentiment in the fact that we felt like Lil J Boogie was not on the same level spirit wise as Gigi and BK, because everything that Gigi and BK sort of represent is sort of like harsh, and I don't want to say, well, kind of like bully energy is what they really have. And Little J Boogie came in, she was a very dancey, happy soul and everything. Like, this is a girl who was in one of her first matches saying hi to her mom when they were doing the album cover thing. And that just doesn't seem like the type of person that needs to be hanging out with the Brat Pack in that way. So I believe, we were sort of looking at it like, okay, it's probably only going to be a matter of time before stuff starts breaking down. And I felt like, in terms of psychology, this was the match that it definitely could have or definitely should have happened, just due to the idea that they just weren't operating on the same like chemistry wavelength that they usually do. Like, for Kita and the Mighty Mice to sort of come in and isolate BK, break her down the way they did, and even fight through Gigi and all of the above, with all the communication with that happening, even though you couldn't physically like see the miscommunication happening with the Brat Pack, I feel like this was definitely the match for it to happen. So, because the Mighty Mites are still relatively a new tag team, and the idea that they were able to fight through with Kita, and beat this team that's been a team a lot longer, was just kind of crazy. But I guess to them, they just wanted to blame it all on Lil J Boogie, and that just wasn't fair. And they did that because, well, they figured, oh, well, she's the nice girl, so we could just do this to her and just treat her any kind of way. And that's just not the way you should do things. And you do have a point, Katrina. You have a really excellent point in the idea that even though it is good that Steffi came out and defended her, she also doesn't necessarily need to be coddled either to go from one team to another tag team with somebody else. Not saying that it's the worst thing in the world to be, attached to one of the Bully Busters, because God knows it isn't. But at the same time, maybe Lil J Boogie will need to figure out, how to stand on her own 2 feet, as her own superhero, and not just depend on someone always being there for you. But I am glad that somebody came to her rescue, because usually in situations like that, nobody comes to your rescue, and you just got to take that beating by yourself. Like, they smacked her with that bump box, and that really irritated me, because those bump boxes are expensive, number one, and number two, they're really cute depending on what design you get them in. So the idea that you really like just broke that was just very spiteful and evil. Like, how dare y'all? Um, that's my merchandise rant. But either way, hopefully Lil J Boogie can bounce back from this, and hopefully, she'll get a little bit of revenge on BK Rhythm and Gigi Gianni, whether it's with Steffi or not. But yeah, it was just really sad. But the match itself was really good, and the Mighty Mites are still out here proving why they're probably one of the best newest tag teams that they have in a while, and I can't wait to see how much further they grow, because they're fire and I love them. So after this match, and after all the kerfuffle happened with Lil J Boogie and Steffi Slays, they gave a recap, here again, of the first match between the Beast and Abilene and their drama and all of the above. But then they also showed how, backstage earlier that day, Abilene Maverick visited Jesse Jones in her locker room and gave her a gift of authentic Bardstown, Kentucky bourbon. Now, of course, I spent some time in Kentucky from going to college up there for 5 years at Berea College. Shout out to them. And up there, they really do take the Kentucky bourbon seriously. So giving this to someone who's from Kentucky is like a really cool and thoughtful gift. And then she had her name engraved on it and everything. So it was pretty cool stuff. So Abilene gave this sort of like a good, like, not a good luck gift, but sort of like a goodwill gift to say, thank you for being by my side and helping me win and all this other stuff. And Jesse said, well, maybe I'll be present at the match and maybe I'll have front row seats. And then after you win your match, we'll celebrate with a shot. And so, they had glasses there and everything. And Abilene said, sure, let's do it. So she leaves the locker room. But as she's leaving, we see Santana Garrett and Americana overhearing their conversation. And we'll get to see how this plays out in the main event. But they did announce that this weekend on WoW, we will be seeing another 6-woman tag between the WoW Tag Team Champions, the Mother Truckers, and Ariel Sky versus top tier, of course, the WoW Trios Champions, which of course stems from them attacking Ariel Sky after her freedom match last week. So we'll get to see that on this coming weekend on WoW. So we finally get to the main event. And I feel like because we've been waiting so long for this match and because Katrina has such ire with Abilene Maverick, she should let us know what happened in this match and let us know the result. And then she'll go first and tell us how she felt first, and then I'll go second. So Katrina, take it away.
I'm probably not gonna get as detailed as you would in this, but I have been waiting
It is all right.
quite. I have been waiting quite impatiently. Let me just for a moment. I have been waiting quite impatiently for this matchup. Quite impatiently. We were both quite sad when the Beast had to give up her title. We were both sad about that. But at least when whoever took it, when we got to the person afterwards, it was an actual match. It was actual wrestling. It was no nonsense. And then Abilene comes. Then she comes. And so we got the Beast back in the title. She was gone all this time. She comes back. Here comes Abilene with her shenanigans coming, doing a little roll up and winning. And they have been a thorn in my side for weeks. So I was very happy. Everything that I wanted to happen to Abilene, the Beast did. She got tossed. She got thrown. And it was like, yes, yes, I've been waiting for this because she was talking real spicy for somebody who was not, and not to say that Abilene didn't have a little, like, she had obviously some moves during this. It's not that she didn't. She even had some with previous matches, but she has used nonsense time and time again. And so while she tried to get some in, the Beast was on a mission, and the Beast did what needed to be done. I was quite happy with this. If I knew her personally, I would have called her and be like, thank you. Thank you for ending the nonsense. Thank you. You should have never lost it in the first place, but thank you. Thank you. And so as even though somebody mentioned about the story, I hate to hear the comments about the story being finished. I don't like I just every time I hear somebody saying the story needs to be finished, I feel like ripping the story up. Just rip it up. Don't say that. We don't say that. We don't finish the story. No. There's no finish in the story because the story paused. It wasn't like she needed to it was paused because she didn't even lose it the right way. She didn't even lose, like, she lost enough injury. It wasn't like she lost it like in a match. It was injury, and that was all. And so it was just paused to go back to where it belonged in the first place, which was with the Beast. And this is no shade to Zazie. She was great. No shade to Penelope. She was great. It's just we were highly upset that the Beast had to give it up in the first place. And so I feel like I have been harboring this for some time. And then Abilene ruined it with her shenanigans. So I am glad that the Beast did win, as she should. She won. And I saw the confetti and I was like, yes, thank you. Thank you guys for getting it right this time. She got the confetti, she got the title, and she is champion again. All is right. The world has righted itself. It is right. And I was like, thank you. The wild world is right. It is the way it's supposed to be. This is the timeline I want to be in. If you're into any multiverse situations, this is the timeline I want to be in. This timeline of the Beast being champion, and so I was very happy. I was very happy. And I know I didn't get to the details. I was very happy that she is champion again.
No, that is perfectly fine because I mean, I totally get it because, like, I get it because I feel the exact same way. I have every sentiment you felt, I felt too. Because when you think about the Beast's journey, like outside of this in-ring match, which we can get to a little bit later, it's just that when you think about the Beast's journey to the title and you think about the fact that it didn't even involve Abilene Maverick in the first place. Like when she had to give up the title, it was all due to the shenanigans of the Fab Four, and Abilene Maverick wasn't even at WoW at that point. So it was almost like Abilene Maverick was just like another hoop that she had to jump through, after everything had happened and all of the above. And you mentioned, you did a great job in recapping the women who had been champion in between that time after she had to give up the title. You had Penelope Pink, who, held the title as long as she did. And then you had Princess Aussie, and those were two of the best champions that we had at that point. But it's just all of that would not have happened if it weren't for the Fab Four, inserting themselves in business that didn't entirely involve them and re-injuring the Beast after she got injured in that triple threat match with Tormenta and Reina Del Rey. Like if they had not attacked her in that alley, none of this would be happening and she wouldn't have had to go through all this in order to get the title back. So I definitely understand how you feel, Katrina, because I felt the same way. She had to go through so much in order to get back the thing that she never ever lost. She never lost that title. Like she never lost it. She only had to give it up. So the idea of her finally, after everything she's been through, finally getting the title back, it was just very satisfying. Like I was yelling and like I was yelling at my house and my dad was just like, "Yo, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm fine. The Beast won the title back." So I definitely get how you feel, Katrina. Like there is no shame here. But yeah, like in this match, it was just like um Abilene was already not focused anyway because she was frustrated that Jesse Jones wasn't there. And it's definitely safe to assume that if Jesse Jones was there, she would have used her as another insurance policy to keep the title. It's definitely, you could definitely assume that, and that would have been a very safe assumption. But as far as we know, the All American Girls 2.0 probably locked her in her room, in her locker room, and that's why we didn't see them. And yeah, that messed up Abilene, and Abilene was trying to go out there with all her confidence, but all of that goes out the window when you're going up against somebody like the Beast. And Abilene Maverick did try. Like I will give her credit. She did try, and she was opportunistic in trying to injure the Beast's shoulder and even attacking it and targeting it during multiple points of the match outside of the ring amongst the audience and all of the above. But the Beast was on a mission and she had tunnel vision, okay? And she wanted that title back with a vengeance and she wound up doing it. And even in the moment where it looked like Abilene was trying to use like that submission on the ropes, and she was trying to really work like on her arm and injure her arm, the Beast just used her brute strength and just lifted her up and gave her the Beast bomb, and that was it. So I mean, what more can you do after a Beast bomb? Nothing. So no shade, but all shade to Abilene. Your time is up. Your time is up. Your time is up, ma'am. And the right person won the right thing. The Beast is now the Wild World Champion again. All is right with the planet Earth, at least in terms of WoW. And I'm just really happy about that because she is just so amazing. She deserves all the things. Like she just has like that great look about her. She's beautiful. Like she's strong and she's very unapologetic about it. So a part of me does wonder, like, who is gonna have the courage to challenge her at this point after everything she's been through. I'm almost afraid for anyone who would want to challenge her because Miss Ma'am has had to go through everything to get this title back. So if she had to go through all this to get the title back, then I'm more than sure she'll do whatever it takes to keep it. So, yes. We are satisfied. So, congratulations to the Beast. We have yet another Black female champion in wrestling. And it's great. We are so happy about that. And that's how the episode ended. It ended with her celebrating with all the confetti all over the place and everybody celebrating. And it was just beautiful. Abilene Maverick was sulking and she stormed out of the ring. It was incredible. So, yeah, that's how this episode of WoW ended. But I just had to let Katrina like get it out there because she has the strongest feelings. So I just had to let her let it go. But yes, oh, it's wonderful. So this concludes our episode of Steph and Cat Talk Wow. So, of course, thank all of you for watching. We got 80 people watching us. So, thank you guys so very much for watching on all of our platforms on this Wednesday night. Of course, if you are interested in checking out the action of WoW Superheroes, please go watch it. Please watch the show. It does come on Vice television, like late at night sometimes, but it does come on Vice TV. It also comes on Pluto TV, as well as thank you, Cliff, for the compliment. As well as Hulu, and I also believe they have their own YouTube channel, which is Wow Superheroes. If you look them up there, and you can watch just about every episode, if not every match separately, the weekend after it, like the week after it airs. So please check it out there, and just continue to support the girls. And if you want to find the girls on social media, you can find them on social media. They're really great follows, and just support women's wrestling as a whole, not just here with WoW, but just all over every wrestling promotion. Just support women's wrestling as a whole, because all the women are doing amazing things, and it's just great to be living in a time where all these women are just being excellent and being incredible and not apologizing for it at all. So it's just really amazing that they are doing that, and we get to be a small part of it. So it's just really great. And of course, after you watch WoW, you can come back and watch our show on our YouTube channels and catch up with everything that we have and all of our feelings and how we felt about WoW, and you just keep up with us. So, with that in mind, Katrina, tell everybody where they can find and follow you. And as usual, thank you for joining me to talk about the show, and just tell everybody where they can find and follow you and what you've got going on.
You can find me on most social media in Cat We Trust, Easy3 on every place but Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I do have a new interview coming out. I have a new episode. I should have probably 2 this week, actually, coming out this week. It's just been a little delayed because this has been a crazy week. Mom duties. And so I'm a little delayed with everything's going on. But just keep on top of what I'm doing by just following my YouTube channel.
Awesome sauce. And of course, you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter/X at Queen Steph Hardy, and follow my show, The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast, and on Twitter/X at Hardy Wrestle Pod. I have 2 episodes out of my show. I have my interview out with Casey Lennox, so please check that interview out if you haven't already, as well as my most recent episode where I talked about all the goings on of wrestling last week, in the form of the episode called Sexy, Sweetie, and Monet. So please check that episode out on audio and on YouTube as well. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, where you can catch everything. And just follow me everywhere on social media. You can follow me on TikTok at Stephanie_Hardy. It's just a bunch of clips because I've been going hard in the paint with my clips, okay? Because, yeah, I have content to share, and I just feel inspired to just put my work out there because I just feel really happy and proud of it. So please check that out, as well as read my articles on Daily DDT. My newest article was about why Megan Thee Stallion should be the next mainstream star WWE should pursue. So please read that article. I had such a fun time writing it and just mixing up my fandoms of music and wrestling together. I love having a chance to do that. So please read that article, as well as my other articles on Daily DDT. And then, of course, just be on the lookout for anything else I might be doing extra. Of course, this month will be Juneteenth. So in Birmingham, Alabama, we will be having our first ever African American Comic Expo held by Blurred Over, and I will be hosting a panel on whether or not it's cool to be a black wrestling fan today. And Katrina will be a part of it, as well as Brittany Morgan from Birmingham. And I'm really grateful for that. So please, if you're in the Birmingham, Alabama area, come out to the African American Comic Expo at the A.G. Gaston Boys and Girls Club and, just have a good vibe and just, I guess, get your questions in on talking about being a black wrestling fan now because it's a very different time. But we're out here, so please be a part of that and just celebrate Juneteenth in a really cool and healthy way that way. I'm trying to think, do I have anything else to advertise? I don't know. Maybe I'll have a new episode of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast this week. Because of course, Battleground in Las Vegas is happening this weekend. So I might weigh in on that. But of course, just be on the lookout for any announcements I make on social media. So, of course, this has been Steph and Cat Talk Well, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. And until next time, bye, y'all.